Welcome back. The city of Minneapolis is currently looking at a $30 million budget shortfall heading into next year, and one city council member is sounding the alarm bells, warning that taxpayers could be footing much of the bill if cuts aren't made. Ward 3 City Council member Mike Rainville joins us now. Mike, thanks for coming back on the show.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Courtney.
Okay, so you're warning of a 13% property tax increase. 13%.
Mm-hmm. And that would be on top of the 8% increase last year.
Wow. Okay, and why do you say that property taxes could go up 13%?
Well, it's a combination of many things, but leading it is the devaluation of the office towers in downtown Minneapolis. Basically, every time one gets sold, they get sold at a steep discount, and so we lose tax dollars. A current example is the old Amorprise building on 2nd Avenue and 7th Street. It was valued at $200 million in 2016, so you would have hoped it appreciated a little bit, but it sold for $6 million, a 97% discount off that price. Thus, their property taxes have dropped 97%.
So a loss of commercial business has really hurt the city's bottom line. What about workers not returning to downtown? I mean, we know that a lot of corporations have, started to bring people back downtown, but some left during the pandemic and never came back.
Yes, you're right about that as well. The value of the buildings is being driven down because the occupancy is being driven down. So companies that went to the work from home have really hurt downtown Minneapolis. But the good news is companies like Wells Fargo, US Bank, Target, they're all bringing people back. And to their credit, they say that job performance reviews will be contingent on time in the office. And if you think about it, Courtney, a junior level, entry level person needs to learn from those more seasoned veterans that are down the hallway from them. You can't learn from another person over the internet or on a phone call. You have to have that face-to-face conversation. That's what's been missing in downtown, and that's what's coming back.
It is coming back, but not enough. I mean, the county assessor's office would show that you've lost a lot over the last 6 years. So how do you make up for that? I know that City Hall is working hard at trying to make up for those losses.
Yeah, so let's put a number on that first, Courtney. From 2022, which is the peak of the valuations in downtown and thus the property tax revenue, to 26 in just 4 years, we've lost $54 million in revenue. And that's on a general fund. We try to get a little over $500 million out of our property tax to run the city, because we have expenses. It's expensive to run the city of Minneapolis, but that's an over 10% shortage right there, and it's going down. So that's why we as a city need to do what every company has been doing, every individual, every household, which is tighten the belt. We have to look at all of our expenses, every one of them, no sacred cows, and decide what are the core missions of this city.
Yeah, I mean, the offices that are leaving downtown are facing some of the same challenges that City Hall is. Higher costs associated with city employees, plus inflation. How are you guys tackling that?
Well, you're right. You've done your homework. Our healthcare, we have healthcare expense for 4,000 employees. That's all gone up. We've been given raises because inflation's been terrible. That's gone up. Equipment purchases have gone up. And at the same time, our revenues are declining. It is so unfair to take that burden that's missing right now and place them on low income and fixed income residents, as well as these small commercial buildings out in the neighborhoods, these business districts. If you own a little store out there, or, a hardware store or a restaurant, you feel that tax burden as well. And that drives up the cost of living for everybody.
What about Operation Metro Surge? I heard that some of this budget shortfall is due to all the overtime during Operation Metro Surge.
Yes, during Operation Metro Surge, we didn't know what was going to happen in the city, especially with the horrible deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. We were fearful of another uprising like we had in 2020. Burning down of the buildings on Lake Street and other parts of Minneapolis, West Broadway. That was the largest amount of property damage ever done to a city during a riot, with the exception of Los Angeles and the Watts riots way back when. So we made a decision to protect people and property from anything, and that there was an expense to that. You know, when the federal government came in here, they were raising Cain with everybody, and we had to do something. We had to make a decision. We did not want Lake Street, Nicollet, our other business districts burned down again, looted like in 2020. And that's why those costs have gone up.
Well, I know your adversaries on the city council would say, well, we won't need to raise taxes if we didn't, have so much police overtime. What do you say to that?
Well, police overtime, what is that? A big part of that is the 911 responders. So those are the officers in the squad cars. On any given day in Minneapolis, half of those police driving to keep us safe and are on overtime because we're so short. I wish my fellow council members would truly understand and admit, I think they understand, but I wish they would admit that these overtime costs are totally driven by the shortage of police. If you remember, we had a little over 900 police back in May of 2020. After the terrible murder of George Floyd, there was a big exodus of police officers. We're looking at a little over 600 now. So we're easily 33% short of it. And in fact, Chief Arredondo back in 2018 did a study for the council about what the police amount should be, the force, how many employees. He came back with 1,200. So if you in 2024, well, this is 2026. 2 years later, compare that 1,200 against the 600. That means we're half under.
So when we talk about 13%, the potential that property taxes go up 13%, that's a lot. The mayor's office has not confirmed this number. They say they're still, trying to work things out. What needs to happen for the mayor's office to work things out so that we don't see a 13% increase in property taxes? Because that's going to hit a lot of pocketbooks hard.
Sure. So in my private conversations with the mayor, his staff, other council members, I have the view that just as every household, every person, every business, whether you're downtown in the neighborhood, you have to make tough decisions and understand what your core mission is. They've all had to tighten their belt. They've had to make sacrifices. It's our time to do that now as a city, because we cannot keep putting that tax burden on our residents, especially our low income and fixed income residents. I hear all the time when I'm out in the community, people are literally being forced to move. And then you throw on things like home insurance, which every renter pays. They pay it through the rent. Utilities, electricity. It's things are just going up. Food. We've all been in a grocery store. We're in a tough time here in America and in Minneapolis.
Since I have you here, I also want to ask you about a few other things happening in your district. There's a proposed data center that might be going in the old Star Tribune printing plant. I know that you talked to one of our reporters earlier today about this. It is your district. There's a lot of concern, environmental concern, noise concern about this data plant going in the North Loop. What can you tell us?
Well, I know very little because the sale is pending. It's proposed, but the final documents haven't been signed. I have a call into the potential buyer to just find out, more details, more questions. But the whole subject of data centers, we have an excellent staff here in the city of Minneapolis, and our planning staff and zoning staff are now going over a new ordinance with a fine-tooth comb. How do we have an ordinance based on facts, not fears? Because data centers are here to stay. In fact, we really should be calling them computer centers, because that's all they are, is the new generation of technology for computing centers. Whether you're a bank, a railroad, airline, a doctor, you all use those. And we have to craft an ordinance that protects our water. We do have surplus water right now in downtown supply. And my understanding is these data centers are on a closed water loop, so that pollution is not going anywhere. And we have electrical capacity as well. That printing plant has a lot of electricity going in there to drive the printing presses. And all over the country, these newspaper plants that are no longer there, they're producing buggy whips in the age of automobiles. They're a relic of the past. They're being reused as data centers, housing, retail, open space. That plant is right by the river. What can be done there? That's my goal, my quest to find out how well that can be developed.
Well, we know that there still is a zoning process that they have to go through. They're going to have to pass all kinds of regulations, those things. But considering the current budget situation the city of Minneapolis is in, you know you're going to face pushback on this data center. Is the city in a position to turn down business with a $30 million budget shortfall, even if it is something as controversial as a data center?
Right. So, common sense says get the facts and make a decision based on facts, not fears. And I'll go to a building that's converted lately, ironically by the same company that has the purchase agreement. It hasn't bought it yet, haven't signed off yet. But they did the Sleep Number building, which was an old American Express building. It was basically emptied out by American Express. The assessor valued it at $30 million, was purchased for $20 million. And 2 years later, with the addition of 2 of the 8 floors having a computer center on it, it sold for $235 million. It increased in value by over $200 million. That is something that we have to consider. It does not draw excess water. It draws as much water as a mid-sized apartment building. The electricity doesn't hurt anybody's electric bills. And because we're a northern climate, they can use air cooling from October through March, which cuts down on water usage even more.
Okay. Mike Rainville, we so appreciate you making the time today.
Always. Give me a call anytime, Courtney.
We don't turn that down. Come on the show anytime. Councilmember Rainville, appreciate you chatting today.